The automatic glass doors slid shut behind Sarah Mitchell with a hollow whoosh. That sound hurt more than the words "you're fired." Cold rain slapped her face instantly, soaking her blue scrubs within seconds. Chicago traffic rushed past her like she didn't exist, horns blaring, engines growling, people chasing meetings, money, importance. She stood there for a moment, unmoving. 20 years ago, she'd walked into this same hospital fresh out of nursing school, terrified and hopeful. She survived pandemics, double shifts, understaffing, screaming families, and silent deaths. And now, she was standing outside, holding her entire career in a cardboard box. Her phone buzzed. A bank alert. Insufficient funds. Sarah laughed, a dry, broken sound, and slipped the phone back into her pocket. "Perfect," she whispered. Her car was in the shop, transmission failure, something she couldn't afford even before today. The train station was 6 blocks away. So she started walking. Each step felt heavier than the last. Rainwater soaked into her sneakers, squishing with every movement. She hugged the box tighter, protecting the framed photo inside, her husband, Daniel, smiling back at her from a beach years ago. What would you say right now, she wondered. Probably something stupid. Probably something comforting. Her thoughts spiraled back to the ER. The boy, 8 years old. Bee sting. Anaphylaxis. She could still hear his mother screaming as his lips turned blue. Dr. Holloway had been on the phone, lawyers, liability, authorization. Seconds mattered. Sarah didn't ask permission. She grabbed the epinephrine. She pushed the dose. The boy gasped. Air rushed back into his lungs. A life saved. And that single decision destroyed her career. Maybe I should have waited, she muttered bitterly, staring at the wet pavement. Maybe doing the right thing isn't worth it anymore. She reached the bridge, crossing the Chicago River. The city skyline loomed ahead, tall, indifferent, unforgiving. That's when something felt wrong. Not visually. Physically. The ground trembled beneath her feet. Puddles rippled. Car alarms chirped. A deep, thunderous THWOP, THWOP, THWOP rolled through the air. Sarah stopped. So did everyone else. Pedestrians looked up. Drivers slammed brakes. Phones came out. The clouds above seemed to split apart. And then she saw them. 2 matte black military helicopters slicing through the rain, flying low, too low. Not news helicopters. Not police. These were war machines. They banked hard over the river, rotors roaring like an angry god descending into the city. Wind blasted down the street, ripping umbrellas inside out, sending trash cans tumbling. People screamed. Someone shouted, "Get down." But Sarah didn't run. She stood frozen. Because the helicopters weren't passing by. They were slowing, hovering, descending, right toward her intersection. And for the first time since being fired, Sarah Mitchell felt something she hadn't felt all day. Pure electric fear. The helicopters didn't just hover. They dropped. Metal skids slammed onto the asphalt of the intersection with terrifying precision. Traffic lights swung violently above as the downdraft exploded outward, shattering the calm of downtown Chicago in seconds. People ran. Cars screeched. Someone screamed, that it was an attack. Sarah Mitchell stood frozen, rain whipping her hair across her face, cardboard box pressed against her chest like a shield. The side door of the lead Blackhawk slid open before the rotors even slowed. 3 soldiers jumped out. Not police. Not SWAT. Military. Dark tactical gear, no insignias, faces hard, focused, urgent. One of them, tall, broad-shouldered, held a tablet instead of a weapon. His eyes scanned the chaos, moving fast, then slower. Then they locked onto her. The woman in soaked blue scrubs. The soldier pointed. Not vaguely. Directly. That's her, he shouted. Sarah's heart slammed into her ribs. Me. The soldier sprinted toward her, boots pounding the wet pavement. People scattered out of his path. A taxi door flew open as the driver dove for cover. Sarah took a step back. Her mind raced. Did the hospital call the cops? Is this about the epinephrine? Is this even real? The soldier stopped inches from her. Rain streamed down his helmet as he grabbed her arm, firm, controlled, not violent. Sarah Mitchell, he yelled over the roar of the rotors. She swallowed hard and nodded. Yes. The soldier tapped his earpiece. Target located. I repeat, target located. Target. Sarah's knees nearly gave out. I don't work there anymore, she stammered. I was just fired, if you're looking for a doctor. We're not, he snapped. He leaned closer, eyes burning with urgency. We don't want the doctor. He turned and shouted back toward the helicopter, voice echoing through the street. We want the nurse. Every phone on the block captured it. Sarah felt the words hit her like a physical blow. What is this? She whispered. What's happening? The soldier didn't answer right away. Instead, he locked eyes with her and spoke slower, heavier. There's a child dying, right now, crushed airway. The military medical team can't stabilize her. Sarah's breath caught. The request came from the highest level, he continued. They asked for you by name. Her brain rejected it instantly. That's impossible. 3 trauma surgeons recommended you, the soldier said. They said if anyone can do this, it's you. Sarah looked down at her shaking hands. These same hands had been deemed unfit less than an hour ago. I don't even have clearance, she whispered. The soldier didn't hesitate. Ma'am, in 4 minutes, that little girl suffocates. He reached for the box. Sarah instinctively pulled it back. My husband's picture, she said, her voice breaking. The soldier took the box gently, tucking it under his arm. Then it's coming with us. He lifted her off the ground and carried her toward the helicopter as if she weighed nothing. Move, 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 he shouted. Sarah was thrown into the back of the Blackhawk, scrambling across the cold metal floor. The door slammed shut. The helicopter lifted violently into the storm. As the city disappeared beneath them, Sarah realized something chilling. Her life had just changed forever. The helicopter surged forward, banking hard through sheets of rain. Sarah Mitchell's stomach dropped as Chicago tilted beneath her, streets shrinking into veins of light, the river twisting like a dark scar through the city. A soldier strapped her into a harness with practiced speed and shoved a headset over her ears. The roar of the rotors dulled to a low, controlled thunder. My name's Captain Ryan Cole, the soldier said, his voice suddenly calm. I know this is insane, but we're out of time. Sarah swallowed. Tell me about the patient. That single sentence flipped a switch inside her. Fear evaporated. Nurse mode engaged. Captain Cole tapped his tablet, bringing up a medical readout. Female 8 years old, severe crush injury, trachea compromised, oxygen saturation is dropping fast. Sarah leaned forward, intubated. They tried. Her jaw tightened and failed. Cole nodded, swelling too severe, airways collapsing. Sarah closed her eyes for half a second. An emergency surgical airway. On a child. In the field. Why me? She asked quietly. Cole hesitated, then answered honestly. Because the Secret Service medical unit panicked, he said, and because 3 different trauma surgeons said the same thing. He met her eyes. She's the one. Sarah exhaled slowly. And who is she? Sarah asked. Cole didn't answer right away. Instead, he adjusted his grip on the tablet and spoke carefully. She's the president's goddaughter. The words hit harder than the helicopter's turbulence. Sarah stared at him. The President of the United States. Cole nodded once. She was injured during a secured charity event, structural collapse, complete media blackout. Sarah's hands curled into fists. So if I fail? The country never hears about it, Cole said, but a child dies. Sarah looked down at her hands again, still shaking, but steadier now. 10 minutes ago, she'd been unemployed. Now the weight of the nation sat on her shoulders. Vitals, she asked. Cole's eyes flicked to the screen. Oxygen at 68 and falling, heart rate unstable, their minutes from brain damage. Sarah leaned back, staring at the metal ceiling of the Blackhawk. You don't have minutes, she said, you have seconds. Cole exhaled sharply. That's why we came for you. The helicopter suddenly jerked. Cole grabbed the side rail. We are landing early. Where's? O'Hare Air Force Reserve Base. Air Force One's already on the tarmac. Sarah's breath caught. The Blackhawk dropped fast, rotors screaming as the runway rushed up to meet them. The doors blew open before they fully touched down. Rain, lights, armed vehicles everywhere. And beyond them, the unmistakable white and blue silhouette of Air Force One. Cole yanked her harness free. Stay with me, he said. Don't stop for anyone. They sprinted across the wet tarmac toward a massive hangar glowing with blinding white light. Inside, chaos. Monitors shrieked. Medical staff shouted. And in the center of it all, a small body on a gurney. Purple lips. Swollen neck. Barely breathing. Sarah dropped her box, stepped forward, and spoke 4 words that froze the room. Move, I've got this. The hangar felt like a war zone. Bright halogen lights burned down onto the gurney, casting harsh shadows across blood-streaked gloves and panicked faces. Monitors screamed in frantic, uneven beeps, the sound of a body losing its fight. Sarah Mitchell pushed through the circle of military medics and stopped at the head of the bed. The girl couldn't have been older than 8. Her neck was swollen and bruised, the skin stretched tight like it might split. Her lips were turning a deep, terrifying shade of blue. Sarah didn't ask for permission. What are her sats? She demanded. 59, a medic answered, dropping. Sarah looked at the airway setup. Failed intubation, blood, swelling, chaos. She turned to the man holding the laryngoscope, Colonel James Warren, senior flight surgeon. "Stop," Sarah said. Warren froze. "Excuse me." "You're tearing up a crushed airway," she said sharply. "If you keep trying to tube her orally, you'll finish the job." Warren bristled. "I'm the senior medical officer here." "And she's seconds from brain death," Sarah shot back. "Look at her neck. Subcutaneous air, tracheas compromised." The colonel's jaw clenched. "We need a surgical airway," he said quietly, "but the landmarks are gone." Fear flickered across his face, just for a moment. "If I cut and miss," he continued, "she bleeds out in 10 seconds. The monitor screamed. Heart rate falling. Oxygen 52. Sarah stepped forward and held out her hand. "Give me the scalpel." The room went silent. Warren stared at her. "You're a nurse." "I'm a trauma nurse," Sarah said evenly. "I've done this in parking lots, ambulances, and hallways." She didn't raise her voice. That made it worse. "I won't miss." The colonel hesitated, then looked at the monitor. The flatline tone was coming. He slapped the scalpel into her hand. The entire hangar held its breath. Sarah closed her eyes for 1 second. She pictured the anatomy beneath the swelling, the cartilage, the membrane, the airway hidden under trauma and blood. She opened her eyes. Her fingers pressed into the girl's neck, soft, swollen, almost unrecognizable. Then she felt it. A tiny ridge. "There you are," she whispered. With a steady hand, Sarah made a precise horizontal incision. Blood welled up instantly. "Suction," she ordered. The field cleared. She widened the opening with the handle of the scalpel, searching. "There," she said, "tube." The pediatric tracheostomy tube slid into her hand. Sarah guided it into the incision. Resistance. Her jaw tightened. Too hard, she collapses the airway. Too soft, falls passage, dead child. Sarah twisted her wrist slightly. The tube popped free. "Bag her." The medic squeezed. "Nothing." "No breath sounds," someone shouted. Sarah didn't look up. "Suction again," she said. A thick clot came free. "Bag her." The chest rose. Once. Then again. The monitor numbers climbed. 60, 70, 85, 98. The hangar erupted in sound. "She's breathing." Airway secure. Vitals stabilizing. Sarah stepped back, her hands finally shaking. She peeled off her gloves, blood dripping onto the concrete. Colonel Warren stared at the girl, then at Sarah. "That," he said quietly, "was the finest airway I've ever seen." Sarah leaned against the cart, exhausted. She had no job, no hospital, no safety net. But a child was alive. And somewhere, the president was about to find out why. The monitors settled into a steady, reassuring rhythm. The little girl's chest rose and fell with the smooth hiss of assisted breaths. Color slowly returned to her lips, pushing back the purple shadow of suffocation. For the first time since Sarah Mitchell entered the hangar, no one was shouting. No one was running. They were just staring at her. Colonel James Warren removed his gloves, shaking his head in disbelief. "You just saved her life," he said quietly. Sarah nodded once, exhaustion finally crashing over her like a wave. Her legs felt hollow, Her shoulders sagged, adrenaline drained, leaving behind the weight of reality. She was still unemployed, still soaked, still holding nothing but a cardboard box. She looked around. Where's my? Before she could finish, the energy in the hangar shifted. Not medical, political. The Secret Service agents along the perimeter straightened, radios crackled, boots moved in synchronized steps. A path opened. A man walked in wearing a windbreaker, flanked by armed detail. No announcement needed. President Daniel Harrington. He didn't look like the man on TV. Right now, he looked like a terrified guardian. He rushed to the gurney, gripping the little girl's hand. "Emily," he whispered, "hey, sweetheart." Colonel Warren stepped forward. "Mr. President, she's stable, airway secured, oxygen is back to normal." Harrington closed his eyes in visible relief. "Thank God." He turned. "Who did it?" Warren didn't hesitate. He stepped aside and pointed. "Her, sir." Sarah stood there in soaked scrubs, hair plastered to her face, holding her sagging cardboard box. The president walked toward her. The hangar felt impossibly quiet. He extended his hand. "You're Sarah Mitchell." She shook his hand, stunned. "Yes, sir." "You saved my goddaughter's life," he said, voice thick. "My sister died 2 years ago. Emily is all I have left of her." Emotion cracked through the authority. "I owe you more than I can say." Sarah swallowed. "I just did my job." Harrington frowned slightly. "Captain Cole said you were taken from Lakeview Memorial." "Yes, sir." "I'm calling your hospital administrator personally," the president said. "Any place that employs someone like you deserves to know your value." Sarah hesitated, then lifted the box slightly. "I don't work there anymore, sir." The words dropped heavy. The president blinked. "What?" "I was fired," she said quietly, "about 20 minutes before the helicopters landed." Silence slammed into the hangar. "Fired," Harrington repeated, disbelief hardening into something colder. "Yes, sir, for saving a child." Captain Cole's jaw tightened. Colonel Warren muttered something under his breath. "Who made that decision?" the president asked. Sarah met his eyes. "Dr. Andrew Holloway." The president turned sharply to his chief of staff. "Get Health and Human Services on the line, and the governor, now." Then he looked back at Sarah. A small, dangerous smile touched his face. "Nurse Mitchell, I don't think you're going to be unemployed for very long." Sarah felt something she hadn't felt all day. Not relief, not happiness, justice. And far across the city, in a warm hospital lobby full of microphones, Dr. Andrew Holloway was about to learn what happens when you fire the wrong nurse. An hour earlier, no one knew Sarah Mitchell's name. Now it was everywhere. The footage hit social media like a bomb. Shaky phone videos showed 2 Blackhawks dropping into downtown Chicago, traffic scattering, rain exploding sideways. The clip zoomed in on a soaked woman in scrubs clutching a cardboard box. Then the soundbite that broke the internet. "We don't want the doctor, we want the nurse." Within minutes, hashtags exploded. "Where's the nurse?" "Blackhawk nurse." "Fired for saving lives." Inside Air Force One, Sarah sat wrapped in an oversized Secret Service jacket, hands shaking slightly as she watched the clips loop on a screen. "They can see the box," she whispered. The chief of staff nodded. they see everything. She tapped the remote again. The screen switched. Live news feed. The lobby of Lakeview Memorial Hospital. A podium. Microphones. And standing behind them, Dr. Andrew Holloway. Sarah's stomach dropped. "We are aware of the footage circulating online," Holloway said solemnly, adopting his practiced, authoritative tone. "Ms. Sarah Mitchell was terminated earlier today due to concerning behavior." Sarah shot to her feet. "What?" Holloway continued smoothly. "While we cannot discuss specifics, her actions endangered patient safety. She was emotionally unstable and violated multiple protocols." The words sliced deeper than the firing. "They're destroying her," Captain Cole muttered. Holloway pressed on. "The military extraction appears to be based on outdated staffing information. Lakeview Memorial had no involvement." Sarah's chest tightened. "Unstable. Dangerous. A liar. She'd saved 2 children in one day, and they were burying her on national television." "He's winning," she whispered. "He has lawyers, I'm nobody." The president stood silently at the back of the cabin, watching the screen. Then he smiled. Not a warm smile. A calculated one. "He's not winning," President Harrington said calmly. He turned to his chief of staff. "Is he still taking questions?" "Yes, sir, another 20 minutes. "Good," Harrington said, buttoning his jacket. "Tell the motorcade to change course." Sarah blinked. "Where are we going?" The president met her eyes. "Back to the hospital." Back at Lakeview Memorial, reporters crowded closer as Holloway basked in the spotlight. A journalist shouted, "Doctor, are you saying the nurse was mentally unstable?" Holloway nodded gravely. "Yes, we acted in the best interest of patient safety." Phones across the room suddenly buzzed. All at once, a ripple moved through the crowd. "What is it?" Holloway snapped. A reporter checked her earpiece. "Sir, traffic control just confirmed the presidential motorcade has exited the highway." Holloway frowned. "The president's fundraiser is across town." The reporter swallowed. "They're not going to the fundraiser." Sirens wailed outside. Louder. Closer. Blue and red lights flashed through the glass doors. Holloway's face drained of color. The lobby doors burst open. Secret Service agents poured in, rifles low but ready. "Clear the lane," one shouted. The reporters parted instinctively. Footsteps echoed. And walking through the chaos, side by side, came President Daniel Harrington and Sarah Mitchell. Cameras whipped toward them. Flashbulbs exploded. Holloway stepped back from the podium, trembling. The president stopped inches from him. "Doctor," Harrington said into the microphone, "I believe you're standing in my place." The room went dead silent. And Sarah knew. This lie was about to end. The room was so silent it felt unreal. Dr. Andrew Holloway stood frozen behind the podium, fingers clenched around the edges like it might keep him upright. Cameras that had been pointed at him moments ago now swung violently toward the man standing beside Sarah Mitchell. The President of the United States. President Daniel Harrington stepped forward and gently adjusted the microphone. "My fellow Americans," he said calmly, looking straight into the cameras, "I apologize for interrupting this press conference, but I was watching it from Air Force One and I felt the record needed to be corrected." He gestured toward Sarah. This woman, Harrington continued, is Nurse Sarah Mitchell. Flashbulbs exploded. Holloway swallowed hard. 2 hours ago, the president said, his voice tightening, my 8-year-old goddaughter suffered a catastrophic airway collapse. The best military doctors in this country could not stabilize her. The crowd murmured. We asked for Nurse Mitchell by name. Holloway's face turned pale. When she arrived, Harrington continued, she performed a life-saving surgical airway that a senior flight surgeon was unwilling to attempt. Gasps rippled through the room. She saved my family. The president turned slowly, deliberately, toward Holloway. And she did it less than 1 hour after being fired by this man. Reporters erupted. Doctor, is that true? Did you fire her for saving a child? Did you lie about her mental health? Holloway raised his hands, panic bleeding through his polished composure. There are complexities, he stammered. Insurance protocols. Insurance, Sarah interrupted. Every head snapped toward her. She stepped forward, voice shaking at first, then steady. Leo was 8 years old, she said. He was dying in our ER. His airway was closing. Dr. Holloway was debating liability. She looked him in the eyes. I was thinking about his mother, planning a funeral. The room erupted. The president raised a hand for silence. While flying here, Harrington said, I asked the Department of Justice to review Lakeview Memorial's billing practices. Holloway's knees buckled slightly. They found significant discrepancies, Harrington continued, enough to warrant a federal investigation. Holloway whispered, You can't. I can, the president said calmly. He turned. Ms. Reynolds. The HR director stepped forward, shaking, clutching a piece of paper. Dr. Holloway, she read, voice trembling, effective immediately, the board has voted to suspend your privileges pending investigation. You are to be escorted from the premises. The room exploded into chaos. Holloway spun wildly. I built this hospital. A familiar voice cut through the noise. Doctor! Sarah turned. It was Frank, the security guard who had walked her out earlier. He held out a cardboard box. I believe you know the way out, Frank said politely. Here's a box for your things. The cameras captured everything. Holloway's career collapsed in real time. The president placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder. Now, Harrington said, about your job. Sarah smiled just a little. I think, she said, I'm going to need a raise. The room erupted into applause. The rain fell again over Chicago. But this time, it felt different. 1 year later, Sarah Mitchell stood beneath a white canopy in the courtyard of what used to be Lakeview Memorial Hospital. The building behind her no longer carried the cold, corporate branding of its past. A new sign gleamed in warm lettering. The Sarah Mitchell Center for Pediatric Trauma. Applause rolled through the crowd. Doctors, nurses, former patients, military officers. And in the front row sat President Daniel Harrington, smiling beside an energetic little girl with a thin scar on her neck. Emily. Alive, laughing, thriving. Sarah adjusted the lapel of her white coat, not a nurse's uniform anymore, but the coat of Director of Nursing Operations. Beneath her name, stitched in gold thread, were the words, Patient Advocate. Jave. She stepped to the podium. 1 year ago, Sarah began, her voice calm and steady. I walked out of this hospital holding a cardboard box. I thought my value ended with an ID badge. She paused, letting the memory settle. I learned something that day. The crowd leaned in. Power isn't a title. Authority doesn't come from a corner office. Power is the ability to help when it matters most. Heads nodded, nurses wiped their eyes. No protocol, Sarah continued. No policy, and no administrator should ever stand between a patient and the care they need. Applause thundered. Behind her, a quiet truth stood tall. The investigation launched that day uncovered years of insurance fraud and patient endangerment. Dr. Andrew Holloway's license was permanently revoked. He now serves a federal sentence. Lakeview Memorial didn't just change leadership. It changed culture. Across the country, Mitchell protections were passed, laws shielding medical staff who act in good faith to save lives. The crowd rose to its feet. As the ceremony ended, President Harrington approached Sarah, smiling. "You changed the system," he said. Sarah shook her head. "I just did my job." He handed her a small velvet patch. A Blackhawk silhouette. Beneath it, the words, "We want the nurse." Sarah smiled through tears. Later, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, she walked past the spot where she'd once stood soaked in rain, holding a cardboard box, believing she was finished. She wasn't finished. She was just getting started. Because heroes don't always wear titles. Sometimes they wear scrubs. If this story made you feel something, don't scroll. Smash that like button right now. Subscribe for real-life stories where justice wins. Comment if you believe doing the right thing should never cost someone their job. Share this story so every nurse, medic, and frontline hero knows their value. Because the world doesn't need more administrators. It needs more people willing to save lives. See you in the next story.